Peace, love, and light. What's going on with the people? We are back with the Wellbeings Podcast on a very, very, very special episode on frequency. Why is it so special? It is because this is our 11th pod. And for anyone who doesn't know, the number 11 in numerology is a master number. Specifically, it is representing the master intuitive or illuminator, representing heightened spiritual insight, charisma, and deep empathy. As a master number, it represents a bridge between the conscious and subconscious, often guiding individuals toward roles as spiritual messengers and healers. They are creative visionaries, though prone to anxiety and intense inner conflict. And if you take a few seconds to look at the clips, based on the last 10 episodes of the Wellbeings Podcast, you will see that each and every person in this group has done that and has been that and is evolving in that. So without further ado, let's get into frequency. Now, what does frequency mean from a spiritual perspective? Frequency or vibration refers to the energy level and rate of vibration of a person's thoughts, emotions, and consciousness. High frequencies correlate with love, joy, and peace, while low frequencies relate to fear and negativity. It represents your inner state of resonance and what you attract. Now, I, you want to give us a good breakdown of what energy means?
Yes, indeed. So I did have it up. Bear with me while I get that energy flowing and going. So energy is the capacity to do work, essential for modern life. With global demand rising, particularly for these advances in technology, energy is that central force where we can think of like what we generate from within, the life force, the chi, energy.
Much peace, much peace. Thank you. And rolling right along, we're going to get into question number 1, which is, how do we use both frequency and energy to pour into our relationships and into the people we love? Whoever wants to jump in first, let's go. Y'all gonna make me pick? Go ahead.
Okay, I haven't thought about it too deeply until, I've purposely left it till we get on to formulate my answers. So how do we use frequency and energy to pour into the people that we love? And I think it all goes back, we've been saying it a lot lately, and as you know, I'm writing a book on it. All goes back to presence for me, I think, and being mindful. And I've always been very aware of, being a mom as well, and having these little beings that you're growing. From the day that they're born and they put the baby on your chest, you as the mom know that whatever you're feeling is going to go into that baby. So, like, I was struggling with breastfeeding when I first had Ome. By the time I got to Millie, I was an expert. But I had to make sure that I was calm when I was doing it. When I was in labour with Ome, I was meditating and all that kind of thing. And she was actually falling asleep in the birthing canal. So that's why I really had to push her out, because she wasn't wiggling. She was chilling in there. So I think it's about being present and being a few years ago, it really kind of struck me about being responsible for your energy, knowing that, you know, because I haven't always been, obviously, we grow and we evolve. And there were previous versions of me that, you know, would quite happily bop into a room in a bad mood and sit there and like let everybody feel it. Like, you know, I feel done to, I might sit there and I might, you know, and be quite happy at watching everybody squirm at the fact that I'm vexed. But, you know, you got to be responsible with your energy, and especially the relationships and the connections that you have that are important to you. What you give is you're cultivating something, you're growing something. So if you want to cultivate happy, positive connections and relationships, then your energy, your frequency should be such that you can do that. It's not good enough to just, especially as I say at the age I'm at now, to just go around willy-nilly. So last thing I'll say is, like, at the moment, hormonally different things are going on inside of me because of my age, and my body's still healing. And instead of just acting a certain way, you know, because I love my daughters, I've said to them, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm feeling. I can't be something else because this is the truth of it. But if you see me being short-tempered, if you see me being overreacting, it's not you, it's me, you know. So that's my answer.
You want to say something, Rama?
Yeah, so I resonate with that because it's something that I went through transformative education to get the distinctions to know about when it comes to how you show up, being present, right? And think of energy and how it's said that energy can't be created or destroyed. So it's like already always happening. That's just what energy for me, right? And then frequency, what you constantly are showing up as, who you constantly are showing up as. Once you're present to that, then, you know, we can use both together to pour into others. But first we have to check in with ourselves because we can't pour from an empty cup. So
That's it.
I think that's where it starts with the self. That's how, you know, you use both to pour into relationships and just show that love for other people.
100%. I agree 100%. And that's it. I feel like Caroline said you have to be responsible with your energy, and Arma said you got to be responsible for your energy. And both are true. And the thing is, with people, like, the question is still a good question, but ultimately, the only real true way that you can do that is by showing up as your best self and letting your vibrational frequency be infectious as much as it possibly can. You know what I'm saying? If it's in its right state, you can't force. You could say whatever you want out your mouth. You could, you know what I'm saying? Like, a person is, they have to move into that frequency. They have to be in that frequency. You're responsible for your frequency and how you show up. And so I thought both are how I do it, how you show up.
To wrap up this good alignment, I agree with all three of you. The only thing I'll add to it, to IMI's point about energy and frequency and how it looked, it's from my perspective. I don't want to put many thoughts on anybody else, but from my perspective and from what I've read and studied, absolutely everything has energy. And it's not just human beings, it's the plants, it's the birds, it's the television, believe it or not. And I think the more cognizant you get of those things, the more cognizant you can be of your frequency and your energy and how that translates to the world at large and your world at large, because the world and your world are two completely different things. And please don't allow your world to be diluted by the outside world. And in reality, the outside world a lot of the time doesn't necessarily translate to how you feel or what you do, but it can infiltrate and therefore confuse you. So I'll say, do your best to focus on you, and in turn, that focus will translate to the love and light that you can pour into other people, especially those you love.
I have something off the back of that as well that I think, we've had things like lockdown, which was global. And I know from the professional position I'm in, and a lot of my friends do similar work, it is very evident that since then, things like mental health crises have gone up. There are a lot of people for different reasons globally that are in an internal state of despair. So I think that if you are not, something I've really had to learn, really had to learn, is not allowing, if you're in a place of light and joy and positive energy and high frequency, not allowing people that aren't, not letting yourself be drawn into that. Because by you remaining as you are, as Cynthonia, I think Cynthonia highlighted it quite a bit in her pieces last month as well as this month, they can meet you. You can pull them up. And I think that's something that, because as an empath and me being sensitive, sometimes I just want to get them. Do you know what I mean? That's the truth. The old me wants to get ya. You want to talk to me like that, and I'll talk to you like that. But the new me is, as we talked about the other day, I am Adriana T. And as I said in my promo, the new me is much better at being able to pull back, observe, and go, you know what? I don't know what's going on with him, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to choose what I do. So I think that's just something I feel like what you said, Adriana, made me think is important to address, that we're in the world right now, depending on where you are, it can feel like it's on fire. We're in a state of transition, and a lot of spiritual places are very much talking about this, that the old world is going and the new one is coming in, but that transition period is a conflictual period. Do you know what I mean? So again, if you love the people close to you and the people beyond you, the bigger world, it's about keeping yourself centered and strong, because that, what do you call it, the universal consciousness, I think I know I've underestimated the power that we all have as individuals to affect that.
Can I say something else? Can I add something?
Good.
We is not in, it's kind of like not in relation to what you said, Kevin. Because we all said, like, the first thing, what I'm saying, is keeping yourself grounded, like C said. I think after that, like, because it's important too, like, you know what I'm saying, like after you show them through or after you keep yourself at a vibration that is able to pull, you know what I'm saying, uplift, then you also have to, like, be able to, like, set boundaries and do those things too, like, in the physical, to, you know what I'm saying, because it's a journey. Everything in life is a journey. Even moving from one vibrational frequency to the next is a journey, right? So you may have a loved one that wants to get to a better vibrational space, and you know what I'm saying, and they're not there. And you could be at that space already, but they're in their own conflict within themselves, and you know what I'm saying, and they're whatever, you understand where I'm going with that. Yeah. So you have to be able to not only just show up, but you also have to, you know what I'm saying, be disciplined in your boundaries too, so that they also formulate an understanding and a knowing too. So you know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like there are also direct, immediate things that you do need to, like, be able to show and do and teach and tell your loved ones and individuals so that they're able to stay on their journey or their path to move into a better frequency, if that makes sense. Does that
That
make
makes
I get
that
it.
makes perfect sense. Go ahead, Aima. Go ahead.
Yeah, because it's all related, right? And when we think about relationships, that's leading into the next question: whether you're in a relationship or not, how does your frequency affect your ability to truly connect with another person?
Like
I
a
think
go ahead. No, go ahead. You got it.
because I think like it's kind of yeah, like it's kind of just obviously like kind of like a glide from what I was just now saying because because it's more than just like you being because when an individual also like portrays like oh this positive attitude, this positive energy to some there are people that you may come in contact with who are energy suckers who are vibrational killers who just don't care. There are people who will take advantage of you know what I'm saying, that energy, even if they may deliberately or unintentionally do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's more than especially like dealing with a love. When there's people who are not in equally yoked relationships, there are people who are in equally yoked relationship, but they both need to grow and mature in ways so it makes the relationship harder or you know make the relationship seem that it's not you know what I'm saying and all type of things you be in a relationship and there's different frequencies so people on different things so you have to do more than just show up at a high vibration because you might be in a situation where that person may just take advantage of that high vibration you know what I'm saying not have no intentions on getting to that vibration because that's too much work, but they love the energy and the feel of that vibration, so they want to keep it near them. So you have to do things like set boundaries. You have to do things that show like you have to be able to walk away. You have to be able to like distance yourself and show love. You have to also be able to be soft and nurturing and empathetic at times. You have to have discernment in situations where you have to give second chances and that you in order for Caroline said it best, in order for you to do anything of beneficial anything that's beneficial to your relationship or to anybody, you have to be present. You have to be present because you have to be able to use your discernment and know when you have to be stern, when you could be a little lenient, when you have to walk away, when you're supposed to stand firm. You have to be present and understanding. You have to be able to understand your vibration and the frequency, the vibe that you're at. You have to be able to understand that space too, to even be able to look at that other person's where they at, the vibration that they on, the vibes that they on, to even get an understanding of that. Because if you can't even understand the vibration that they're at, that you're on, you can't even help nobody do nothing anyway.
Right.
So that's how I really feel. I too was like you, Carolyn. I said to myself this time, I want to feel the questions and answer based off of how I'm feeling in the moment. So that's just how I feel right now.
So I'm on that same type of timing, and it just made me think of there being levels to relationships, right? There's to get to know somebody, the honeymoon stage. Then y'all might be in that relationship for some time, whatever duration of time has passed. Now you might be living with that person, right? That presents a new dynamic to the relationship. You're like, oh, I didn't know you do that.
Wait a minute.
But then we're talking about truly connecting with another person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it does circle back to what is your relationship like with, or let me put it to me, what is my relationship like with myself?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where it starts from the frequency, the output of me being able to show up for somebody. How am I showing up for myself 1st?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's what I'm taking from this question and where we're at in the conversation at this time. Like you and Supernatural C said, we just, we're freestyling pretty much right now, but it's creative.
I've got to bounce off the back of that, because that's the bit I left out on my promo, is that somebody's projections isn't just about the programming that they've received, or if you remind them of somebody. There's an element I missed out, which you just said, IMI, which is perception of self. So what people often do when they're projecting or transferring is transferring onto you who they are. So they assume you do that because that's what I would do. So, I had a situation recently where somebody acted a certain way, and I could see that they expected a response out of me. It was a very clear interaction where I was like, you think I'm going to do this, but you think I'm going to do that not because of who I am, because you don't know me well enough. You think I'm going to do that because of who you are. So that's what people do, because that's what you think people do in your mind and in your world. And I think for me, the answer to this question is fundamentally it's truth. I'm listening to you all and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, that's why I've always found care experience young people to be so bright and beautiful, because they tend to be very truthful and very honest. My interactions with them they hide themselves less. If you build that trust with them, they'll tell you as it is. And for me, I think that's how I form the best, long-lasting, positive, loving connections, because it's not really about what you do. It's about whether you're honest about it. Do you know what I mean? So I think what I know I struggle with is when what's coming out doesn't match the vibration. When I know that's dishonest. I can't connect with that, because I'm like, I'm not interacting with you. I'm interacting with this other thing that isn't you. You know what I'm saying? So whoever you are, me in my world, I'm good with. And a lot of that is to do with who I am in myself and the forgiveness I've given myself. But when I'm talking to BS, there's a tangible, for me, there's a tangible wall that I can feel. And I think the older I get, the less willing I am to bother with that wall. Like, I can't be bothered to try and kick it down. You know what I mean? I can connect with the truth, warts and all your flaws, all your bad thoughts, I want to kill that person. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? I remember that's why me and Cynthonia connected at the start, because I remember her telling me about, hope you don't mind me saying this, I can edit it out if you want, but I remember you talking about being on the underground in New York, and how sometimes you just want to kill someone.
No, you don't have to edit that out.
Yeah, I know that feeling. You know what I mean? I didn't judge you. I didn't think it was bad. You know what I mean? I didn't think, oh, she's violent. You know what I mean? I just thought, yeah, I get it. So I think for me, connection, real true connection with anybody has to have truth as the foundation.
Feel that.
Yeah.
Before I give my comment, I've been on a New York subway, so yeah, man. Survive how you survive, champ. That's a lot. I'm gonna take a car. I'm gonna walk for real. But to y'all guys' point again, like, I'm freestyling as well. It's easiest to trust yourself first, and that comes with loving on yourself, right? I was recently in a mental health class, and I was put in a situation where I needed to either sink or swim, for lack of better words, as far as trust and intuition and how I was going to react. Being someone who, in this particular class, was more of an example of what evolving and actually doing the work can look like. Like, are you going to choose to be petty and rude, or are you going to choose to show other people how to notice the negativity, notice that negative energy, but still approach it from a place of, this is also a human being who's clearly going through things I don't know about. I don't have to engage with you in that way, but I also don't have to allow your negativity to affect how I project in this moment. And there's a situation like that for a few days with a certain person who clearly was going through a lot. And there were people around me who were younger than me, like Ome's age, like 18, like young people who were like, at that point had started expressing like, hey, I want to hear what you have to say because I like what you say. And I want to figure this thing out. And these are young people. And then we have older people, 40s, 50s, who are also like, maybe I could use this approach at work or whatever the case may be. So I'd like to say that I passed that particular test, because of the things that you guys have already said, what you've already laid out. Start with self. Trust yourself and love yourself enough to be intuitive, but also trust your surroundings and trust that internal clock that tells you, hey, this may not be the best vibration for you. And also remember that everybody is trying to figure this thing called life out. Some people are doing a way better job of it than others, respectfully, but everybody is in their own way. There is no right or wrong way. There is only balance. And once you figure out that balance, you start to understand things a bit more. So I co-sign my people, man. Love on yourself, and in turn use that great energy to love on each other, but do so with boundaries and discernment, because everybody ain't for everybody.
And
Rocking into go ahead.
Go on, you finish and then I'll come in.
Go ahead. I was actually going to move into the next question. So if you have a comment, go ahead, and then we'll roll into it.
Just something that has been niggling at me that I've seen on quite a few podcasts lately. And I want to just say this very clearly to all the parents that are watching, that I keep hearing this, children, it's not just what you tell them, it's what you show them and what you got to show them. And the underlying bit that I keep getting from it, which I'm struggling a little bit with, is like this perfection thing. And I just want to be very clear from my own experience and from the work I've done that, yes, that is true, but we are not perfect, whatever perfect is. Children also need to see you go through the hard stuff. And we've said that on the parenting podcast. They also need to see you grappling with something. They also need to see you. I think Emmanuel said it beautifully before, that your son didn't think that you cried, and you realize that actually I need to show him that emotion. So I think that sometimes as a parent, we feel like we've got to be perfect. Do you know what I mean? Perfect. I've got to get everything right. The things are going to be shiny. And, at the moment I'm sitting in my room and my shelf's falling down. My mirror's broken. Because I've not been well, I haven't had the energy to move in the way that I normally move. And the guidance that I'm getting is, it's okay. They also need to see that. They also need to see mommy resting, relaxing, putting that to the back and not dealing with that today, deal with that tomorrow. This perfection thing that you think you need to be doing isn't necessarily correct. So that's the other side of it, is that we are allowed as high frequency people or beings, if that's what we're aiming for, we're allowed to get things wrong, to make mistakes, to be angry, to be sad, to have the full range of emotions. It's not about presenting this perfect image all the time.
Well, that was actually an absolutely perfect segue into our third question. Phenomenal, actually. How do we take frequency and break it down for the children in our lives so that they can understand it? Aima, you want to start as the padre of the group?
So there's a book I'm reading right now, and I'll get the title to y'all in a minute, but one thing that's brought up is about raising children, right? We're not raising children to remain children. We would like them to be adults. So taking something like frequency and breaking it down, meet them where they're at. Don't try, for me at least, I wouldn't try to baby it up or anything like that. I don't do that in conversation with Kyrie when we talk. I'm not using, explicit language or curse words, or because I don't just talk like that normally anyway with my friends. So not that he is my friend, but I'm leveling with him. So I would take something like frequency and show a real world use of it. Like, if you're always bringing a certain attitude of I can't to any situation, that's the energy or frequency rather that you're showing up when adversity comes. So it's going to make it harder. We actually had a conversation about eating certain things, and in that conversation I'm letting Kyrie know that it's what we're putting in that allows us to get that real energy. So if we're getting natural sources of sugar from fruit, then we have something that's going to sustain, rather than we eat a piece of candy and we get a short burst of energy. Now we're drained, our energy is a bit low. So that's how, I, in real time, break down frequency with the children in my life, because it's not just him, my nieces and nephews. I talk the same way. I joke and laugh. Sometimes, Uncle Manny gets a bit cuckoo, but we also don't baby it up.
100%. I feel like don't baby it up is so 100%. Like, that's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna go into that because that to me could be its own whole episode about baby. But anyway, yeah, I also would take an active approach. You know what I'm saying? I would through like, all right, so for example, the best way for me to explain through example, like we do a meditation or a breathing exercise, and directly after let's sit there and let's discuss, like, how do you feel right now in this moment, like get an understanding of that energy, this and a third. Another moment, they have an crash out moment and they're angry or this and the third. Let them have their moment in peace or whatever. Verbalize, remember how you feeling right now, remember what, like, this and the third, and let them have their moment, calm down. Let's have an open discussion, like what was going on in that moment, this and third. And in those times when they are present and then they're paying attention to exactly that, you could incorporate, what I'm saying, like the frequency, and give them an understanding breakdown so that they can have a relation to what you're saying, to a specific, what I'm saying, situation that they felt, because they were active in that moment. It was a high potent. They were, so that I would do things, something like that. Definitely a little bit more creative, but that's like a foundation, something I would do.
Yeah, I think it is. You both hit two key points that I've done with my daughters. From the womb, I was talking to them fully, having full-blown conversations with them. I've never goo-goo gagaed, and that's the way I've seen it demonstrated in my family. So I had nieces before I was a mom, and I've watched my mom, my aunt, my elder siblings do that with their children. You talk to them. I do think it's cultural as well. I think that's definitely a very Bayesian thing, because my mom is Bayesian. They're not stupid. They're small, and they can fathom way more. I think there's a lot in kind of modern research and all this that's a load of rubbish, and you have to ignore it, you know what I mean, and just your own child, so I think that's really key what you said there, Emmanuel. And what you're saying, Cynthonia, to me is it's experiential learning. So Ome and Millie are peaceful because they live in a peaceful house. When they go to Nanny's house, it's peaceful. The school that I trekked across the borough for is peaceful. You know, the teachers, one of the reasons why I had to keep them in that school and make sure that they went to the senior school and the sixth form is because when I worked in the other sixth form and I met those young people from that school, they were a different level, because the teachers at their school speak to the young people like adults. They don't dumb it down. They speak to them with responsibility. So those kids, those children, young people come out of the school confident. You know, they'll come up to you and they'll talk to you with eye contact and their head up, and, you know, with an energy about them that you wouldn't see from children from other schools. So I was like, my daughters are going there. Whatever it takes, they're going there. And it has worked. So it's a combination of things, you know. I think you have to, another big one that I've said over and over again was Kung Fu. So Wushu was a way experientially that they have learned to keep peace in their vessel, because that hard training every Sunday, and then the training that they would do in the week when we were going to the gym as well, kept them calm. When they stopped doing it in lockdown, we had to start doing things at home, because little did they know until they actually had to stop doing it, that they were getting stuff out physically every week. And a martial art is good because not only are you exerting yourself fully physically, but you're also exerting yourself. You know what I mean? You're actually punching, kicking, you know, it's that kind of energy is great for keeping the vessel calm. You know what I'm saying? So I think for children, it's experiential. It's what you show them. It's the environments that you put them in. You know, Omo and Millie are not going to sit in a very high conflict environment comfortably. That is not their norm. So they're going to seek out, and they do, other people that are peaceful like them, you know. So that's, for me, that's really what helps to keep how I've shown my children to the frequency that I think is healthy, you know.
100%.
Well, y'all just give me a second to get my bearings, because before we started shooting the pod for the audience, I was telling my homies here about a specific conversation I was having with my pop and some knowledge that he was kicking to me. Interestingly enough, he spoke of how he would talk to me and have conversations with me even before I could talk. He would have conversations with me in the womb. He did all of the things, and this was in the 80s, people, when this was considered weird. And he's like convincing my mom or whatever the case may be, no, this is going to be beneficial. She's like, okay. Lo and behold, you know what I mean? All of these things have been, and the way me and him converse, I'm speaking from the kids' lens, with, pardon me, the children's lens, because I'm not a parent and I want to respect the parents in the room. And I'm a bit distant from my nieces and nephews because they're all over the place, and my brothers and sisters are in different places in their lives. But from the perspective of the child who had an experience with both sides of the communication spectrum, right? I had the one parent who felt like it was beneficial for me to be talked to in my age bracket, but talked to as a person, as opposed to like goo goo gaga. And then I had the other parent who just wanted to shield me from everything. And I kind of played that tug of war, you know, when I was younger, like which way to go, which way not to go. And I'm Pop's, you know, been Pop's best friend. So I sided with him by default. So I would say from the children's perspective, it is absolutely beneficial. And to IMI's point, it's interesting. I'm listening to it again. I probably run it back 3 or 4 times, but I'm actually listening to an audiobook. I don't know if it's the same, but I listened to it in the Celestine Prophecy. And they were actually speaking directly to that point as well, how important it is to speak to the child as a person, because first of all, they learn from it, but also you never know what the child could instill in you. No matter what age we are, no matter what stage of life we are in, we are constantly getting messaging that we need to follow, right? And a lot of people miss a lot of the messaging because they're discrediting children as not worthy or not old enough or not mature enough. And in reality, there's a lot of game that they could give you, especially from the spectrum of, hey, they're living in a different reality than you are. So again, I co-sign all of my co-hosts slash homies, and please, love on your babies, of course, but also love on them as humans, not as just little people who you think don't know anything, because they know so much, they absorb so much, and they want it. They sincerely do want it.
Yeah, they're closer to the source, closer to coming from the source of where everything comes from than we are. So there is a knowing that they have that,
Mm-hmm.
I think about remaining childlike, and that's not something that I want to take away from the children in my life, while at the same time raising them to be adults, because it's an innocence that I think that we still have to a degree. Then depending on what we've been through, we still tap into our childlike creativity when coming up with pieces for these episodes, right? And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes when I'm just playing my guitar, not trying, just playing and having fun. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, from the mouths of babes.
Yeah, I thought that same thing. Oh,
If
yeah.
you've got a close, I could give you hundreds of examples. Even on Friday, when I was talking to Ome about a situation, she said something so profound, and because I was so in my emotions, myself didn't go there, but it was so profound, and I was like, that's happened. If you if you have that close relationship, like you said, Adriana, with your dad, if you have that close relationship and you're actually present and you're listening and you're paying attention, that whole thing of the Most High or the higher realms or the angels or whatever beings it is that influence our reality, they speak through them. As Emmanuel said, they're closer to it, just like older people are closer to it, which is why when you see them connect, the young and the older, there's something special that they have that you don't have with them. So yeah, it's I love hearing about your relationship with your dad, actually, Adriana. I think it's really beautiful when you talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure is.
Yeah, makes me want a daughter.
Pour into that baby boy. We need more father-led sons out here.
Yeah, 100%. So what we're gonna do now is get into something that's really on par with frequency. This is about something that I care a lot about. Music. How intentional are we being, and can we be, about the music we listen to?
That's a good one too.
Oh God.
All right, nobody want to speak up. Y'all know I want to speak up. I can go on my soapbox for 20 minutes. Man, listen, because again, being on both sides of the spectrum as far as the music thing, I grew up a 90s kid, which means I was a 2000s teenager. That was crunk music, that was fighting music, that was, a lot of stuff that we necessarily shouldn't have been into type music at that young age. But I started my foundation, taking it back to my pop, was like the Lauryn Hills, the Missy Elliott's, the Salt and Peppers, the Al Greens, the Princes, you know what I mean? The people who were talking about something. So I learned as I got older and started to really hear what I was listening to. You know what I'm saying? Because when you're a teenager, sometimes you don't slow down enough to realize exactly what it is that you're singing and repeating, not knowing that you're affirming, which is why for the people, media is something that we really need to tap into monitoring, because they know that too. The people with money know that too, but that's a different conversation. But as far as knowing the difference just switching frisbees, and this can apply to music. This can apply to any type of media, your TV, your books, even. You know what I mean? Because even those, unfortunately, have their greats and the not so great. So how you do that is you start to pay attention, like really pay attention to what you're consuming and how it makes you feel, honestly. Because while a teenager and it feels like you have, well, in my case, let me speak about me. I felt like I was having a good time because I was fitting in and everybody else was doing it and singing it and all of these things, right? But when I'm by myself, I'm not listening to these things. I'm not vibing to these things. And when you are your truest self, usually when you're your most comfortable, and back then it was usually a solo mission for me. So I would say for the younger people, really decide whether or not what you're consuming, whatever it is, makes you feel good, even down to socials. Like, does that back and forth argument that you're watching really do anything for you? Or is it just something that's there? You know, on the opposite side of the spectrum for our more seasoned veterans of this life thing, it's not anybody trying to tell you what to do. It's just trying to get you to notice that. Remember back to before we didn't even have these screens? Y'all lived a lot more of that life than any of us. What did that feel like for you? What did you gravitate towards during that time period in y'all's lives? So on both sides of the spectrum, just notice. Just take the time to really notice, and I guarantee you there's a lot of things that you'll want to voluntarily remove from your life and add to your life as far as media is concerned. And I'll put a pin in it there.
As far as music's concerned, is it just music or like just listen, like what you listen to?
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Cause all right. So, cause I'm gonna include social media too, right then. Cause it's a thing. Remember, I was saying like sometimes you get so caught up in the vibration that it becomes home, right? Me with music is so touching me because I'm very conscious of it, and yet I deliberately go against my better self when it comes to like what I intake as far as music is concerned. I try I try different strategies to. I'm not gonna lie, it's addictive. You know what I'm saying? It's addictive because it is really, 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 truly tied to a past part of me that I haven't all the way dealt with. And like sometimes when I'm listening to this music, I am fantasizing or I am reminiscing about a time. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of time when I'm listening to rap stuff, even though I'm a different person now today, like when I'm listening to it in my mind and my thoughts, you know what I'm saying? I'm reminiscing, and I'm not gonna lie, so like it feels good. It's like, all right, I'm not acting it out in real life, and I'm not being like that or whatever. But it's like I still didn't like lose certain aspects of what I'm saying, like my old self, and like that, like comes to the music. However, with that does come the excessive aggressive thoughts that like linger because of those vibrations, you know what I'm saying, and I am conscious of that. So and I like that also. I want to say that also trickles into certain social medias, because although I have a lot of positive and good things, working out things, I tap into a lot of IMI's posts and things like that, so I get a lot more like good different things that I've never tapped into before, whatever. So I like that. But there are times when police brutality, ignorant fights, and what I'm saying, they be coming up, and a lot of times, I'll be needing to just like swipe up and give it, but sometimes I'll be like, oh shit, be watching it, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? But what I do, and what I do need to do more is like I'm present, and I'm like, I am self-teaching myself financial literacy, so I am into a lot more audio books and podcasts, like listening to certain things that I've never tapped into on that front. So what I do when I found myself I'm listening to it too much, I'm like, all right, like I gotta get an hour in of this audio book. You know what I'm saying? And try to have a balance of it. So that's how I try to like, I don't know if it's working, but I do feel like I'm more positive today and now, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's working. I would be better. I would be better if I could have more control and limit the 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 rap and that aggressive stuff a little bit more. I know I would be, you know what I'm saying, like, but you know what I'm saying. I'm also having grace on myself too, and I'm doing better. So shoot.
You know what I'm hearing from what you're saying, that there being a time and place for everything, right? And I think about tribes that have war music. The intention is to go to war. So, with that as a distinction, when you think about what we're consuming, whether it be music or a video we see on social media, the intentionality is important, because what do we expect to get out of it? Like you talked about things that you listened to when you were younger that you might hear now, and it's like, oh, it brings back that feeling, right?
Mm.
So that's, for me, a positive that can come from music that can be seen as negative. We're not listening to the same ears that we had when we were teenagers.
I'm sorry, let me just clarify this part.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying it. The reason why I was looking at it as a negative, it wasn't that I'm listening to music that I was listening to when I was younger.
Yeah.
I'm listening to types of music that relate to things to the same type of music I was into when I was doing certain things.
Got it. Okay, I'm clear on that. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And it's just like it just brings it. But what I was saying was, to me, it's like, even though I know that the vibration and all of this stuff and the aggression, I know that it ultimately like causes me to linger in aggressive thoughts like for periods of time. For me, like, listen to it, like, why it's so addictive to me is because, like, I don't act or move in the ways that I did, and you know what I'm saying, and I don't even, it's not that I find it attractive, but it's still like a part of it is, like I said, a part of it that I've just like pushed away and I haven't dealt with, so I still have attractions to it. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that part. But I'm not acting out in life. I'm just like, dang, I'm just reminiscing. So shoot, like, just let me reminisce. That's not that deep.
I think it comes with the experience and being able to channel the energy from what you're listening to. And I think about how these things are worded, right? We watch a music video on a certain channel. We used to listen, now it's streamed, but then even that, streaming music, right? A stream of consciousness. But it used to be radio stations, where they're transmitting this energy through the radio waves. So all of it is, it to me, again, it goes back to what intention are we listening to any form of media for, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it be a podcast that we're tuning into, a song that we're listening to, maybe we're going to the gym and this slow jam is just not gonna hit for me right now, so I might need to turn up with some UK grime or whatever,
I think it's like the way I look at it, like what I'm thinking about what Adriana said about the different time periods, and I am first generation Black British. So my mom came from Barbados, my dad came from Jamaica. So they came here with the music that they left with. So in our house, regular, dominant was reggae and soca. And both of those things are positive vibrations. So reggae has that little island in the Caribbean, musically has dominated the world. The vibrations that come out of Jamaica with reggae, and for me there is nothing like and every baby in our family when they're born, They go into that baby bounce, and that baby bounce just gets bigger. You know what I mean? You just make that baby bounce bigger. But there is a vibration, you know, a vibration in reggae that is positive and good and sources through your body. And the same thing with soca, but it's not the same vibration. It's a different vibration. It's fast, it's happy, it's party, you know what I mean? But lyrically as well, like I was talking to my friend Dennis, who's Jamaican, and his children are around my age, his sons. And he was saying, my son now has gone back to the music that I raised him on. And a lot of my generation, me too, I've gone back to that music because when I put it on, there's a reminiscent feel, but it also is super peaceful. And the men, they're not talking about sexing women. That's what I was saying to you on the last podcast, I Manuel, when I said you got that lover man thing about you, because the reggae, the old school reggae is me love you and you are the light of my life, and you know, it's not no small thing, it's like epic love. And even in soca, it's got that same kind of thing going on. And I think what listening and reflecting has made me think a lot of the 90s music, as banging as it was, because the 90s was a very beautiful period in terms of music, there's a lot of toxicity in terms of the lyrics and the imagery. And that's when all of that hoe business came in. And it's secondary to me. I'm not in America. You get it firsthand, but it's still impacted over here, right? So that's when that degeneracy in terms of the way women are viewed. I saw the line. I saw when it switched, when it went from this conscious hip hop, KRS-One and things like that, to this videos with women in bikinis and men sitting there, you know, just and we, like I say, we still had a distance in that time. It still was, that's over there, that's not here. But that distance has closed now. And I think a lot of damage has been done by that imagery and some of that lyrics, some of that side piece stuff and sexing talk, and you know, it's not talking about family and love and, you know, that stuff that is deep in the reggae music I grew up in, or deep in the kind of happy soca party vibes that I grew up in. So I'm not dissing it, because again, there's a lot of Black British music at the moment where I love the rhythms, the MCs, I love their cadence. For me, it's all about riding the rhythm. They ride that rhythm like a don, you know what I mean? Like they're on that thing, but what they're saying is foul. Not all of the song, but that's why I can't always dance to it and put the videos out, because I can't put a video out with me dancing to you talking about women like that, or talking about getting your gat out and shooting someone, or I can't do that. So I'm able to still distance myself, but a lot of younger people in particular are not, and they start to absorb that. And there's a lot of evidence, scientific research, whatever, where, you know, you got suburban white kids that are picking up on this stuff that's in lyrics because it's programming. So I think for me, I have to distance myself when I listen to certain things, because I don't just like clean, glossy music. I like the grimy stuff. I like the grimy things. I like that element of truth, but I'm very aware that's not my reality. So I'm not attaching myself to it in that way, you know what I mean? But I've been doing it. I've been listening to Tibetan music and solfeggios, and sometimes it's just simply boring and dry. It's the truth. I'm bored by it. It doesn't uplift me. It can actually depress me, if I'm honest. I might put it on in the morning and write my affirmations, and I'm like, something's bothering me, man. It's this damn Tibetan flute, you know what I mean? Turn that thing off, and then I put some reggae on, and I'm happy. So I think it's like, you have to know, it always comes back to knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't separate yourself from those lyrics, then you can't listen to it. But if you're able to separate yourself, if you're able to, then listen to what you want to listen to. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a feeling.
You
Like, how
took
do you
you took
identify with it,
go
right?
ahead.
Now, you just really quick, I thought about something that was put in the chat during formulating these questions and music being in our DNA. You talked about your upbringing, your background, and when you put on reggae, you can get in that zone more so than if you tried to listen to Tibetan flutes, and maybe because you're not from Tibet.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And what you're saying, what you said about war music is very real, because a lot of this modern music and people like Dr. B, because Dr. B obviously is a musician as well, talk about this a lot. It's war music. So it sets off stuff in your body to go to war. That's why people like to listen to it in the gym, on the running machine or pumping weights and that, because you're going to war. And what Dr. B talks about in terms of the American equivalent to the reggae and the soca, and obviously you guys had that as well, is that like Earth, Wind and Fire, that old school soul, where they were talking about dimensions. You put that music on, and again, it's got a happy vibration. It makes you want to, and then somewhere it's just got darker and darker. So it's you have to seek out. And as you say, Emmanuel, it is about, I'm not dissing any Tibetan people.
Sounds like
Any Tibetan person is watching this, I apologize, because this ain't about you, this is about me. You know what I'm saying? But it is in our genes, it is in our DNA, and that soca all goes back to Africa.
If you're from Tibet, comment in, what's your favorite type of music?
I love it.
Oh boy. I was just gonna jump in and validate both you, Caroline, and you, Tone. Started with you, Tone, before I forget. I don't want to forget. I think, and this is just my perspective on it. Take it as a grain of salt or take it as a whole daggone field. But I think that you listening to that music, because you are who you are, that's your business, and this pod isn't the place for that. But I think listening to that music might be the work for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, so everybody does the work, whatever you think the work is, as far as inner child or whatever the case may be, differently. Music sonically, especially for people of color, is a part of the work. Like, to Caroline's point about soca and reggae or whatever the case may be, the reason why it feels good, even the hip hop, you know what I mean? Even though it's lyrically terrible, we know, and it has gradually gotten more and more so that way by design, by the way. But the thing that always feels good is the rhythm, is the melody, is the drums, right? That's culture. That's a cultural thing. Drums have been our language since before we were speaking, English, respectfully. So both, what I'm trying to get at is both things, in my opinion, can be true. You can be working through stuff by, say, listening to Reasonable Doubt. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you are, but that's Jay-Z's album. Or in my case, you could be working through stuff by just feeling like, I just want to go for a run and listen to Nut Give You Butt so I don't slap this person because they pissed me off. But I'm going to go back to listening to my TLC or whatever the case may be when I get home. I think both sides of the spectrum can be true, but what everybody's been saying, and what I'll reiterate is, through all of that, is noticing, paying attention to it. So if you're cognizant and you're consciously aware of, like, okay, this isn't the highest as far as intellect or whatever the case may be, but it feels good to me right now, so I'm going to rock with it and put it back in this drawer when I'm done. Cool. It's when you don't realize that, which is why I mentioned the age bracket, when we're spongy, when we're younger, and we're less likely to pay attention because we got all this stuff going on at the same time. That makes us more impressionable. That makes us think that this is the end all be all. But if you notice, as times are changing, you start to notice, like, yes, there's a lot of straight up garbage. I've spoken on it several times in all forms of media. But if you really peep game, there's a lot of positive stuff trickling in for the younger people too. And they are gravitating toward that. I think this might be the first generation of people that I've heard about in mass that are gravitating away from drinking. They don't want to do drugs. They don't want to do these things. Like, this is a constant thing that's constantly talked about, despite what they're hearing, because they are seeing and learning the difference, because they are in this age of awareness and consciousness, learning a lot and paying attention. So for everybody that isn't or is choosing not to, I urge you to reconsider, because that's the difference. Like, it could be DMX and still be spiritual to you, literally. It could be Radiohead, which was the band I was singing off key earlier. it still be it still be cultural to you. That was a time in my life where I resonated with that. I felt like that, which is why I sang that song. There was a purpose behind that. But I'm not gonna walk outside here in the sun and say, "Spirit, I feel like a creep," because I'm not. You know what I mean? I might be a weirdo, but I'm not a creep. That's the point of all of this. Like, I think everybody, and I don't want to speak for anyone, so correct me if I'm wrong. Y'all know y'all could jump in. But I think everybody's saying the same thing as far as being cognizant of yourself, how you feel, what you consume, and to notice at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's like, it makes me think about one of my favourite artists growing up from day, and it was the first concert I went to, is Mary J. Blige. So I went to her concert when I was 14, and obviously I shouldn't have been going to no concert at 14. It was in a club, and my sister and my niece's mom dressed me up and made me look big and got me through the door. And H-Town were there as well, doing all this boom, boom, boom business. And I was like, 14, what? But Mary J. Blige, for me, why I always loved her was she gave me an outlet for some of the feelings that I felt. When you can sing that out, when you hear an artist on a record, and I know that's her whole fan base, that's why she's so loved and why she's so huge, because she speaks to your emotion. It doesn't mean you're going to carry that emotion, like a bit like what you're saying, Adriana. It's that you can connect with it and you can sing it out, and you feel better. So she's one of the few artists in my lifetime that I was always waiting for that album. When's the next album? Because I knew when I put that on, there's going to be something on there, you know. What's the one? I'm just fine, fine. You know, that one. You know, Mary J. Blige can take you up into the stratosphere, you know, while at the same time I'm not gonna cry, I'm not gonna shed no tears, man. Chuck. You know,
you was going through emotional roller coasters.
Yeah,
go through the whole thing
so quickly.
And the thing about her is that I've always loved, and I still love her. I still love watching her on interviews and things. Is that realness? And she's not all squeaky clean. She hasn't got the most perfect voice. Her voice is gritty and grimy. You know what I mean? But you feel it. So I think, you know, there's absolutely a place for a reflection of society, of the environment. You know what I mean? It's not negative singing about pain. That's how we get through stuff. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So some of these rappers, that's what they're doing. They're talking about their pain. But it all goes back to what you said, Adriana. The baseline is, are you aware of what you're listening to? And are you aware of your reaction of what you're listening to? You know?
Yeah. There was a conversation that Jay-Z had with an interviewer from GQ. Mm-hmm. He talked about battle rap and if it still needs to be one of the pillars of hip hop. And there's a side of me that says yes and no. Because there can be battles that people go through where, you know, you get some growth from. But then when there's the battle that gets personal and people talk about things that are going on in each other's lives, it can be damaging to the reputation of another. Then that's where it gets a bit murky. You brought up KRS-One, and I'm reminded of when he went at MC Shan. He was ruthless in his approach. He threw bars at Roxanne Shante, and it was like, Yo, that didn't need to be said. As high level as we look at him as an artist to be, even he can have that dark in him. So with music, I'm thinking the same. You know, you pick from it what you can, and then as we grow, our ear develops to, you know, differentiate from this lyric being something that's actually happening to it being storytelling. And we know that we're not going to act on this because all forms of media can influence us. With music, it being a part of us, it just has a bit more control is not the word. It has a bit more power over our actions. But when we're aware, as we brought up, of our intention of why we're listening to the music, then we can, you know, really be in tune with what we're listening to.
Yeah, I've got to say that I made this song the other day. And the universe would not let me put it out, right? I made it, I got up in the morning and it was the first thing I did, and it's called Rotted Rank, right? And a part of it goes, Rotted Rank, right? And I'm like, I'm going,
Wait, are you saying rotten rake? Rotten rake?
Rotted rank. It's a Jamaican
rank. Like a
you're rotted rank.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That means you're supremely rude. That's what it means. Yeah, rank is like rude, and rotted is like
extremely.
Yeah, extremely, right? And I was just in this mode, and I do know it's hormonal as well, because after I did the song and then it disappeared off my phone, I went round the house going, I'm perimenopausal, yeah, so what? Right? So clearly I wasn't in the best place, right? But the song, the universe would not let me put it out. I made the tune. I was getting ready to upload this thing, right? Put a video to it, everything, and it just disappeared off my phone. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I prayed on it, and I said the next day, I says, can I have my song back? I promise I won't put it out. My song came back, and I listened to it again, and I sound crazy. That's the truth, right? And what I got from the Most High was, you needed to make that song. As an artist, you needed to get that out your system and express yourself in that way. And you did that. But if you put that out, the damage you're going to cause yourself, you know, it's like certain artists, if they turn around and say something, it can destroy my view of them. Like Sizzler's one that, you know, I love Sizzler. But I'll say it. Pump up her, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? That song bothers me, right? Because I love, thank you, mama, for the 9 months you carried me through. And then you got pump up her.
Yeah, that exists within the Sizzler. Because there's videos to us, yeah.
I don't want to hear Sizzler saying them things, you know what I mean? It bothers me. So what the message I got from the Most High was, you got to be really conscious of what you're saying, because you can't put out comically connected and a cosmic mantra and then rotted rank. Rotted rank is going to destroy all that other stuff that you did, you know what I mean? Because the power in what you're saying, you have to be responsible for how somebody else might receive that. And it's the same as if Emmanuel all of a sudden put out a song about having one night stands. I'd be like, well, who are you, guy? Because I want to hear that from you. I want to hear the loving and the lifetime and the, you know, the holistic and the natural vibes, and the, not to say that you've got to put yourself in a box.
Yeah.
But as an artist, you do have to be cognizant of what you are saying.
What's on brand.
Yeah, not on brand, but also no, you build an audience on that. That same audience are listening to that. So if you're uplifting them with this thing, but then you're saying, but you know what, when you're vexed, get a gun and go and shoot someone. That's not, on a spiritual level, that's just not responsible.
I have a question to your exact point, right? Because this is so good. But I do want to know, like, what is where's the line though of authenticity, of being able to express that, even though I'm working towards this and this is where I'm at, sometimes it could get like this too. Like how, like where, because you're 100% right now, I'm agreeing. I'm 100% agreeing with what you're saying as far as, and I'm laughing that it removed itself and then the universe gave it back to you so you can hear how you sounded. That is funny to me. But also because, like, I don't know. Don't edit this part out. Like, I'm afraid to even, like, just be out there, just in general, just knowing that I'm a brand, right? Like, I just don't even, like, I just want to just be perfect already. Like, when I get out there and I know that that's like outside, that's away from what we're authentically doing and being authentic. But like, a big part of it for me is like, I do have that rap side that I do suppress a lot. So you know what I'm saying? Like, how authentic would I be if I only show when I'm on with you guys and writing and doing this, when there's times when I really feel and really go through those ratchet moments, like, you know what I'm saying? So where is the line of authenticity? And do you guys understand what I'm trying to ask?
And I think it to go to what Caroline brought up about myself doing a song about one night stands, right? I think it's a matter of expression, right? How I express it, because it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I was telling Ja that about subject matter when it comes to making songs. You can talk about death, violence, but it depends on where you're coming from with it, right? So if I'm coming from or approaching a song about one night stands from a place of vulgarity, then it's going to have that in it. But if I'm approaching it from a place of, this is my experience, and, you know, yeah, that one night stand was what it was, but this is, you know, me at the end of the day authentically expressing what it meant for me to have that one night stand, as opposed to she was just a bop for the whatever, you know. It's all about approach. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
You're right.
I was gonna say something similar, like to break it down for the audience, or something that's like pop culturally relevant. This is literally the difference between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Quite literally the difference. One side of the spectrum is, this is the end all be all, drunk party, yamp women out, all of these things. Kendrick is saying, hey, this is a part of my life. This is something that I did. These are things that I've experienced. But this is how we going to switch that frisbee and rise higher. You know what I'm saying? I think what you're looking for, Tom, and this is just my perspective on that, again, great assault, but it sounds like you're looking at how you want to integrate it, because I don't think there's a line. I think it's how you integrate both and express that in a way that's healthy and authentic for you. And unfortunately, and I say unfortunately because I had those times in my life too, and still do sometimes for other things, but that's something you got to figure out yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta learn to integrate all parts of yourself and accept them all, and then learn how to express them in a way that you deem as the end all be all. Now, that you deeming thing for you, perfectionist, just bring it down just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself some grace, because even though you have a lot of perfect aspects, you're not a perfect person. None of us are. But I think it's all about integration.
And this is why you don't do things when you're crashing out.
Facts.
That's the difference between... It's the truth. I mean, I sounded nuts. I sounded like I'd lost my mind. And if I'd have put it out there on a professional level with some of the other stuff that I'm doing, somebody would have heard that and thought something completely different of me, right? I'm crashing out. Don't do things in anger. It's the same as with your children. That's the high frequency versus low frequency. Am I going to beat my children, or am I going to go, you need to sit in timeout? and think about your actions, and then we're going to have a conversation. There's you know, it's you still discipline. It's how you discipline. I can still give that message about being rotted rank without sounding like a maniac.
Right.
And it was what I needed in the moment, which was why I felt the urge to do it, why I did it, and I still think it's a banger, but it's a banger for me when I need to go to that place to just get something out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But not for the world. The world don't need to see that. You know what I mean? Just like when if you're in the gym and you're going hard and you're fucking, no one needs to see that. You show them in the gym when you're calm, and it's not being fake. It's being high level versus low level. You know, in control or out of control. And the whole message I've got from the Most High is, the only way you navigate this life on a high level is from calm. It's from presence. It's from being decisive. It's okay to thump somebody decisively.
Or in music.
Required.
Or or even in music, to talk about stuff like infidelity, right? It's not a new subject matter in music. What's the song? Me and Mrs. Jones, we got a thing going on. His lady, she was somebody else's, but that's the same thing I'm talking about with a one-night stand. It's all about approach. So I wouldn't take the approach of some of what the contemporary artists would do. I would put my spin on it, for sure, but nothing is new under the sun. So these topics that are being covered, they might seem like they're, you know, more prevalent now in your face. It's just that the elder generation knew how to put that thing on it.
Yeah. Promotion is another thing as well. Like, are you promoting violence or are you reflecting on it? The violence exists, and one of the things martial artists and my seafood told me, you need to know how to fight. I didn't know how to fight, which left me with no defenses. That's not a good place to be. And I realized my daughters are not going to grow up not knowing how to punch properly, how to defend themselves, you know what I mean? How to move someone off and get away. You need to know how to fight. And I saw something on Instagram the other day where these two guys were going, there's a difference. You can't be peaceful if you're not choosing peace if you don't know how to fight. You're choosing passivity. You can't actually do anything. So it's not a choice that you're making. If you're a warrior now and you choose peace, that's a different thing. You know? So it's kind of knowing that it's a decision to manage self. That's what high frequency is managing self. Is in the face of adversity, I'm still here. I'm still thinking, I'm still reflecting, and I am responding. I'm not reacting, you know? So if somebody comes up to me and punches me in the face and I go, bang, that's different to if somebody comes up to me shouting and I just go and start railing on them. That's not control. That makes me in the wrong now, you know? So really that's the in terms of frequency, that's the baseline for all of that for me. Is like, are you truly in control of self? Are you a Zen master?
I seen a post yesterday before, and the guy was saying, like, you know, you want to be dangerous. And the other guy was asking me if they were interviewing. He was like, dangerous? He was like, why would you want to be dangerous? And he was saying, it's better for you to know, and it goes to your point, it's better for you to know how to do the damage and not have to, or be able to compose yourself, than not be able to. Because if you're not even able to, you don't get there's no honor in not handling a situation. A situation arises and you walk away. You didn't walk away because you chose to. You walk because you had to. There's no the the self-restraint and the discipline and the ability to be able to know how to cause this damage and to restrain yourself and to be able to analyze and like that's a dangerous person. That's what you always want to be in. And the other part, the interviewer was like trying to get him, but he just made too much sense. And I was just like, you're not even hearing him. Like, you know what I'm saying? But exactly to your point, like it's all about that control. But I definitely understand what you guys are saying about that, something meditative.
And I've got to just drop in, I'll shut up now. But it's the same with intelligence. People choose stupidity, you know? They choose to not read. They choose to not look at certain, you know? You can absolutely choose to be a fool in this world. And that's a choice. So if you choose to be a fool and you're out there and people are finessing you with their intellect, that's your business. Mm-hmm. You know, I didn't grow up like that. I grew up with, you better know, you're responsible for this up here, right? You got to be switched on. You need to read them books. You need to watch that documentary. You need to. So that's it all again, back to self. You make a choice. If you choose to be a fool, you is a fool.
You as a fool.
That was an absolutely phenomenal way to wrap this up. So before we wrap up this very divine pod on frequency, does anybody have any final thoughts on the subject? All right. Peace, love, and light to all. This has been the Frequency Podcast, and we are the Well-Beings Podcast. Y'all have a great day.
Yeah.